Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome back to High Top Sports Georgia. We got Jack Mack, our dog insider, with us today. This show is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. We're going to be talking about the Dogs taking down Auburn in a little bit of a slow start, getting the running game started, and then, of course, the preview for Mississippi State, although I know all dog fans alike are already 2 weeks ahead looking into that Tennessee game. I'm probably going to be watching that Texas, not Tennessee, that Oklahoma-Texas game come Saturday because this is going to be that next big test for the Dogs. But let's talk about Auburn, Jack. How are we feeling after another W this week? After, good old Alabama. You're a week too soon with the tissue paper, baby. A week too soon.
I was texting Shelton saying I was a week too early. I just never thought Vanderbilt these days could have a shot. But that was great. That was a great early or late birthday present for me. But with Auburn, Georgia, all eyes were elsewhere with the upsets of the week. Georgia kind of took care of business. Another slow start. It is becoming concerning at this point, right? I mean, even with Clemson, they won that game by a lot, but these first half, Carson Beck, it takes this offense a second to get rolling, find their groove, kind of get in a rhythm. It's almost like they need to see what the defense is going to play as before they can really get into their playbook. That's what it looks like as a fan. And the same thing happened with Auburn. I did see a little bit more of a concerted effort to run the football. ETN had more carries than he did against Bama, but still, there's a missing component that we are used to seeing with the explosiveness. Not a lot of explosive plays. ETN broke free a couple times, but nothing crazy. So running game, there's a little bit more of a concerted effort. Carson Beck looked better. Clean game, no turnovers. That's good to see. Didn't know if he was completely lost his head there after Bama, but settled down. That could have been another thing with the slow starts is Bobo just trying to settle him in, not have another big mistake to put him down early. So that could play a part into it. But all in all, we got the win. Almost covered the spread. Got the under for us. But Dogs won.
Let me ask you, this wasn't part of the slate, but Colby Young, your number one receiver, just got arrested, which seems to be a trend at Georgia, it was a kind of a funny joke, but it started to be like, I said the first couple were like, it is what it is. College kids being crazy, no big deal. But and you could argue that it's been a pattern. It's definitely a pattern now. Is there some concern there from the inside of the Dog Nation of like what's happened? Is there a culture issue? Is it just, what's going on? What are your thoughts on it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's been ever since that unfortunate accident, right after that national championship, that seems like Georgia's had an issue.
Sure.
Usually I've been able to fall back and say, look, it's a driving issue, reckless driving, while still dangerous. I mean, it
College
could be
kids,
worse.
rich, get more money, much cars. You kind of see like there's you can kind of excuse it in a way. Yeah, that was my point of like,
Exactly.
just big spotlight. It is what it is. The last few though,
Up until now,
been a little questionable.
Up until now, you see those charges, and at first I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, this is a little bit different. Kind of goes back to Adam Anderson a couple of years ago. He had serious charges, but once some things came out, some Georgia insiders were saying, okay, it seems like the lawyers are confident he's going to be exonerated. He didn't really touch her. Now more things have come out, so he may have contacted her in some way, but the charge of harming a child is obviously wild. There's something to be said about this culture of the locker room in Georgia. Kirby being able to control his guys, I can see that. I think a lot of it is with NIL, more money, more problems, right? With the cars, I guess you can explain it that way. But yeah, I know for sure with talking with some people that still work at Georgia that they're having those conversations every day about leadership and doing the right things off the field. But at a certain point, there's only so much the coaches can do. I mean, I promise you at Georgia, Kirby does not want this to be an issue. He wants the spotlight on other things. So
sure.
It's the players. So, I mean, the players have to take ownership and, kind of do better. But yeah, obviously this most recent charge is going to have more backlash, but
yeah, it's starting to add up a little bit. Let's talk about the running back room. We kind of want to talk about those guys getting started early. Again, Trevor Etienne, the big loss when Florida. I know Florida fans ourselves were pretty upset. We love Trevor Etienne. Fortunately, I feel like the running back room has been upstanding at Florida thus far. And that was, again, for me, running backs are a dime a dozen, but Trevor Etienne is somewhat special, but hasn't really been, I think, the exploding, bright spot for that Florida or for that Georgia offense. Like I thought he was going to go out there and just run everybody over. And he's done well, but not like I think we thought he would.
Absolutely. And I thought the same thing. He'd be maybe sliding into that DeAndre Swift role. I mean, he's great with those one-on-ones, and the first guy seemingly never can get him. But yeah, getting those big runs, big open holes to break 170, 80 yards, you're right, we haven't seen. There's a little bit more of a concerted effort, I think, but you got to think also, Shelton. I mean, with the offensive line, there's a lot of guys out. Ratledge is out, so that could be part of it as well. Missing that explosiveness, and offensive line, running backs, it's a cohesive unit. So maybe ETN being new. I mean, a lot of young guys, Frazier, Robinson, just not had a chance to gel, I guess, with this offense, the offensive line. Something could be said, but yeah, we're getting into the nitty gritty now. These excuses that I'm saying have to be out the window going against Texas. So I think we're going to get another load of that. Is ETN early and often to kind of get him going, because we have to figure that out once we go against Texas. Because as we can see, being down 28-0 in a hostile environment, it's not easy to come back from. Easier not to be in that position if you can get a running game going. So, yeah, it's been missing, but there's been more of an effort. So I believe if we can do it, we will do it this week with Mississippi State. It's kind of a cure-all, it seems, for some teams. So I hope that be the case for Georgia.
It's the new Vandy. It's the new bye week for everybody. As of now, Mississippi State is an absolute shambles. I don't know if you saw Nick Saban on Pat McAfee today. Said he texted Kirby after that loss and said, "Look, this is probably the best time to lose it." And he's a 7-time national championship. He's like, "We've only went undefeated twice," meaning that it's okay if you lose, and especially in today's world. So I think that loss at Alabama. Does it hurt worse they lost to Vandy, or kind of like it's done and over with? I'm glad you lost to Vandy. You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
Yeah,
I'm glad you lost.
Back when there was a 4-team playoff, you didn't really want Bama to lose because you wanted that SEC championship to be everything, just in case Georgia lost. So,
Sure.
But now with the 12-team, I felt great. Didn't mind at all.
And
of course,
SEC play. It was an SEC loss. I mean, those losses they got a lot more value to them now, right? So that was big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially, you saw the memes on social media with, oh, well, is Vandy the best team in the SEC? Because Alabama beat Georgia, all that. That's funny. But no, I was just felt great. I mean, like you said in the beginning, I was just a week off with this DeBoer craziness. They already got the guy changing shirts at his press conference, went from just the straight tee. Now he's wearing collars because some podcast was calling him out on it. So I was right, but not all the way right. So it feels good no matter what with Alabama kind of in turmoil.
I think you were spot on. I saw the flack or the hate, you could say, of his lack of appeal. Untucked shirts, no polos, like it's a different vibe. It's not Nick Saban. It's not the same culture. You see the kid throwing a fit. A lot of question marks came out against that Vandy loss. You got exposed, something that's never happened before. You walk in there, what, 0-60 versus the top 5 team Vandy was? I mean, brutal, absolutely brutal. But we got Mississippi State coming up this weekend again at Georgia. This show, of course, is brought to you by BetUS. And when you go to betus.com, use the code YouTube150, you get back 150% on your first deposit, and then 125 on your second up to $2,000. And the spread on this one here, boys and girls, 34 is what old Jack Max dicing it up for me. Is that right?
Yeah. Another one. That's what I saw it as earlier.
Yeah, it could change a little bit, but I think we're sticking with the dogs don't cover once again. But the over under is a spicy one too.
Absolutely. I mean, 34. When I checked it this morning, I was not expecting that number. SEC games, even Georgia over the years, when we had Stetson with the high-powered offense, proven high-powered offense, these spreads were not 34 in SEC games, even with Vanderbilt sometimes. So that is odd. I know Mississippi State, who'd they lose? They lost to Toledo, I think, in the beginning of the year at home by like 30 points. So they are that bad. But I would stick more to the under. I don't see how Mississippi State scores. I mean, the only team that has scored was Alabama in the first 12 minutes of the game. Outside of that Ryan Williams catch at the end, Alabama scored in the first, quarter and a half of that game, and that was it. So I don't see how Mississippi State's going to change that trend. Kirby also lit a fire under the fans this week, mentioning that the crowd was not the same as it used to be with, Arkansas in years past, Tennessee 1 versus 2. We had some freshmen, I think it was in the student section, leaving midway through the game. They thought it was in hand. So Kirby lit a fire under him. So poor old Mississippi State has to come in the week after Kirby gets under the fans. It's all shaping up. I think still 34 points is a lot, but I think the defense will be ready to go. And maybe a score prediction, 41-10. So I guess that's right. That's close, but 41-10. We'll go with that.
Yeah, I like 35-3, 35-0, 34-3, right around that range. Maybe they do pop in a touchdown and get 7, possibly at the end there. Look, it's another loud week of college football games. You've got obviously the Red River rivalry with Oklahoma and Texas. Florida, Tennessee is a loud one. Ohio State and Oregon is a loud one. What I mean by this is that the focus is not going to be on these two teams here once again. And Georgia will be able, in a way, to kind of stay out of the spotlight, go do their things, figure some things out before they head into Texas. And look, in a way, you get a bye before a big game like Texas. And it's crazy to kind of skip Mississippi State like this, but let's be real. It is what it is. It'd be like playing the good old-fashioned Vandy team. So this is an opportunity. You can kind of start using this game as a measuring stick if you want to. See what other teams did against Mississippi State. What are we going to do against Mississippi State? Not that Kirby will base that, but I think, for our conversations when you're trying to judge, hey, how is things moving? How are things progressing with this offense? I think getting out to a hot start, like you said, has to be the point of emphasis. You can't, because a habit starts to be, or a pattern starts to become a habit, and you don't want a habit to come out slow against this Texas team. Texas is a 14-point favorite against Oklahoma. I think it's a little disrespectful.
I love Oklahoma.
You love Oklahoma? Oh, the cover. I don't like Oklahoma to win. I was like, I hate Oklahoma. But yeah, I took Oklahoma. Give me 2 tutties all day long in a rivalry game. Come on, that's crazy.
Absolutely. And there's a big difference, as you're saying, Mississippi State and Oklahoma rivalry game the week before. I mean, that's going to be as physical of a game as they play all year long. So having Georgia right after that, it does stack up pretty well, right? Mississippi State is still an SEC team, but not a rivalry game, and not Oklahoma. So Texas, I think there's also a lot to watch in that game to see how they're going to play Georgia. It's obvious that Alabama and DeBoer left some things out throughout the first couple of weeks for that Georgia game in the first quarter. So I don't know if that's part. I think Ewers is hurt, but I don't know if that's part of it, playing Manning over the last couple of weeks. I don't know. Have you heard who's starting tomorrow?
Quinn's back. Quinn's back down.
Okay, Quinn's back.
Yeah.
So they're going to obviously try to put him away early, as any team is, and try to hide as much as they can. But I think it's going to be a tough, physical game, start to finish, and that lines up well for Georgia, especially if we're able to get out to a big lead ourselves. Maybe Carson's sitting, drinking water, talking to the backup guys in the third quarter. Score checking around the league. That's, as Georgia fans, that's what we want. We want this game over and done with, look around the league, see who's losing. Because at the end of this weekend, as you're saying, it's going to be a whole different picture. I mean, Oregon, Ohio State, someone's got to lose that game. And in the SEC, you got LSU, Ole Miss. So we got a lot that's going to go on. We don't want this. We don't want this Georgia game to be any more drama than it needs to be. So you're right. It's perfect lineup for Georgia playing Texas next week if we can put them away early.
It's lined up to be a juicy one, and look, that loss to Alabama stung because of how the SEC could line up, but Bama drops one they shouldn't lose. It's a bloodbath. I mean, everybody feels like it could be anybody at this point except Mississippi State, because Vandy just proved like, no, we can go with the best of them. They went to double overtime, I think, with Mizzou. Mizzou gets handled by A&M. A&M looks to be legitimate with Elko, and this thing is going to be a dogfight, pun intended, all the way to the end, and it should be a good one. Well, that's all we have for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this content today. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for some more content from Jack Mack, and I think he's going to have his buddy on a couple of shows here. So be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. This show, of course, was brought to you by BetUS, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.
Go Dogs.